Hey, Rockets, it's Mrs. Wilgenbush. We are doing Masterminds by Gordon Korman today. We are working on chapter 5. Are you ready? Here we go. Hector Amani. I know what everybody says. Malik's not really my friend. He's using me so I'll help him with his homework. I don't care. They don't know the real Malik. They don't see how he treats me when nobody's looking. Like the time I skateboarded into the truck from the plastic works, I said I was fine, but Malik dragged me to the doctor's office so his dad could check out my nose. Malik cares about me, and that's more than I can say about a lot of people who warned me against him. Or when I got into trouble for losing my dad's favorite toilet snake and I couldn't watch TV for 3 months, Malik let me come over to his house and watch I Love Lucy, even though he hates I Love Lucy. He only punched me twice, and even those times were because I laughed too loud at the funny parts. We seem really different, but the truth is, Malik and I have a ton in common. Neither of us has brothers or sisters, and our dads don't work in the plastics factory, which is pretty rare for around here. We're not ordinary size. Malik's the biggest kid in town, and I'm small for my age. We both love hot dogs, although he can eat 3 to my 1. The main similarity between Malik and me is we don't love Serenity that much, and everybody else thinks it's the best place on earth. Malik doesn't hide the fact that as soon as he's old enough, he's leaving. We all have to leave if we want to go to college. There's no university in Serenity. But I assume what he means is that once he's gone, he's never coming back. Strange that a guy who relies on 24/7 room service from his mom is so anxious to get away. Maybe he expects Mrs. Bruder to come to NYC with him to cook his food and look after his laundry. She might even do it. She's that kind of a mother. He complains that she smothers him, but he also complains when the chip bowl gets low. That's how their relationship works. She's constantly nagging, he's constantly yelling, yet they're closer than close. There's the word I heard once, codependent. I'm not sure if it comes under honesty, harmony, contentment, or a little of all three. I don't say anything, but when moving day comes, I'm going to beg Malik to take me with him to college and to beyond. I don't want to stay in this town forever, even though the outside world scares me. It's just too different and unknown. Until that day, though, we're stuck here, and we're best friends, whether anyone believes it or not. He's my partner for the Serenity Day project. We're making amazing progress, and it's probably going to go even faster once Malik starts helping. It was his idea to build a scale model of Serenity Park using Legos and the crate that the Brewers' new pool table came in. I've been spending all my spare time in the park mapping and measuring to make sure we get it exactly right. Malik doesn't get good grades, so most people don't realize what a perfectionist he is. He understands all the schoolwork he gets out of doing. He tried. He'd probably be the third best student in town, after Amber and me. Then again, if Malik was a good student, what would he need me for? Yesterday, I'm in the park measuring the display cases for the Serenity Cup and hoping it matches the dimensions of the clear plastic Tic Tac container we're using for our project when I spy Stanley Cole and his family. They're picnicking on the lawn by Serenity Square. Stanley, his parents, his kid brother, and their dog, Ortiz. I watch them from a distance, but they don't notice me. They're too wrapped up in each other. It kind of makes me uncomfortable. They laugh a lot, like everything's hilarious to them. The dad drops a sandwich and the dog eats it. Hilarious. Stanley wipes out an exposed tree root. Hilarious. The little kid buries his truck in the sand and then cries because he can't find them. Hilarious. Even cleaning up after the dog is a fun activity. What's the matter with these people? I can't understand why they seem to think that everything in the world has to be put there for their amusement. I can just picture my father throwing a frisbee or giving me a piggyback ride, or my mother picking up dog poop and liking it. It would never happen. Not in this life. When I was 8, I asked my parents for a puppy. They said no, the dog food would be too expensive. I even offered to eat less to save money. No dice. I'm too skinny as it is. I'll stunt my growth. Looking back on it now, we live in just as nice a house as anybody in town. We have the same cars and pools and grand pianos. If the Coles can afford dog food, why can't we? My mom is an executive at the plastics factory, and my dad is the only handyman for 80 miles. If something breaks, it's him or nobody. I know how people look at my parents when we go out. You can feel their respect. They would never waste time having a picnic in the park or laughing like hyenas about nothing. You won't catch them with their arms around each other, and I can assure you that I've never had a piggyback ride in my life. Honestly, I don't know how Stanley lives with the humiliation. I see his face, laughing, smiling, grinning, and I know for certain that I never looked like that. I wonder what it feels like. Losers is Malik's opinion when he finally arrives, and the biggest loser is you for spying on those idiots when you should be working. Poor Stanley, I say. His parents treat him like he's a 2-year old. You don't pick your parents, he tells me. You get what you get. I'm surprised. Well, your folks are the best. He makes a face. If you like bad jokes and chicken soup. I love your mom's chicken soup and your dad's jokes. How can I describe it? Dr. Bruder's humor may be corny, but it's comfortable, like an old shirt you don't want to throw out. Well, I loved your mom's chicken soup. Seriously, I wish I had your parents. I'm surprised I said that out loud. Malik takes it in stride. You've got a roof over your head, same as everybody else. Not that your mother feeds you very much. She feeds me plenty. I just don't grow. It isn't anybody's fault. Relax, he advises me. I'm pulling your chain. Your folks are fine. How good can parents be anyway? It's not like cars where you can be a Kia or a Bugatti. Bugatti. They're parents. What he's trying not to say is what everybody else in town thinks, that mom and dad are bad parents, or at least they love me less than all the other parents love their kids. But that's just wrong. Maybe my folks don't show it like Malik's mom, or the Priddles, or even Mr. Frieden, who's super strict because Eli is his whole life. But my parents care about me, and I can prove it. It's one of my earliest memories. I must have been 3 or 4. I was playing in the sandbox in our backyard. When you're little, you get a swing set and a sandbox before you graduate to the usual treehouse and basketball half court. I'm making roads with a toy shovel. Serenity is one of the few places where a little kid can recreate the entire street grid in a sandbox. When I hear a rattling sound, I don't know what it is. I've never heard it before. And I come face to face with a coiled snake, a diamondback. Its tail is in the air, poised and ready to strike. I remember my father flying across the yard. His feet must touch the grass, but to me, he'll always be flying. He reaches out for me, but pulls up suddenly as a rattler strikes. The triangular head slices toward me and then pauses in midair, part way between Dad and me, almost like the snake can't figure out which of us to bite. It's probably just a second, but it feels like forever that the three of us are frozen in time. My father, the rattler, and me. We're silent. Even the diamondback has stopped rattling, although Mom is screaming loud enough for all of us. The snake has had enough. It dashes off, and Dad scoops me up in his arms. It's over that fast. By the time my younger self begins to cry, everything is back to normal, and there's nothing to cry about. I might have forgotten the whole thing except for the conversation I overhear when I'm in bed that night. Why did you hesitate, my mother demanded. He weighs 40 pounds, Peter. A snake bite would have killed him for sure. It was a diamondback, Tina, is my father's response. A little one, too. You know the venom is more concentrated in the very young. What was I supposed to do, get bitten myself? If necessary, Mom replies readily. You know how valuable he is. I hear Dad sigh. You're right. I'm sorry. Valuable. When they yell at me or roll their eyes at me, when they ground me for something minor that isn't even my fault, I remember that word and I hang on to it. When I see another family having fun in a way we never do, I picture how mom's lips must have moved to form those precious syllables. I'm valuable. Well, if that's not love, I don't know what is. Chapter 6. Tori Priddle. The purple people eaters aren't really purple. Their uniforms are more like a deep blue violet. Look closely and you'll see it too. I notice things that other people miss. I think it's because I'm an artist, so I have an eye for detail. You know the smokestacks at the plastic works? You never see smoke coming out of them. My parents say it's because the factory is a green industry that doesn't pollute. Steve, aka Dad, says they switched over in 1978. We're ahead of our time in Serenity. It's important because Amber and I are doing a mural for our Serenity Day project. If there's anything coming out of the chimneys, it would be wrong. We want this to be as authentic as possible. I hope it goes better than the book we're writing together. She says my pictures don't match her story. When it's obvious her story doesn't match my picture. We got into a pretty big argument about that for about 15 or 20 minutes until this song we both like came on the radio. Amber and I fight a lot, but 20 minutes is kind of our maximum. She claims I'm immature because at 13 she's technically a teenager and I'm still 12. She's really only 7 months older than me, but she never fails to make a big deal out of it. She says I'm too sensitive, but I'm obviously not. She also says I use the word obvious too much. She might be right about that one. I have an artist studio in the attic. Dad set it up for me. There's a window with a great view of the whole town and Carson National Forest in the background. At dusk, the light on the distant mountain faces reminds me of the glowing amethyst. Come to think of it, the purple's uniform have some of that too. Dark amethyst. Is that a real color? Is there such a thing as light amethyst? I'll have to check. In the foreground, we've decided to draw a cross section of our citizens. Obviously, we can't pose everybody, so we're collecting photographs to use as models. It's pretty interesting to look at still pictures of people you see on a daily basis. Mr. Amani, who's more than a foot taller than his wife, Dr. Bruder with his goofy bow ties, Kurt Osterwald's bright red hair, which is a perfect match for his dad's. Then there's Eli, who, as dark as his father, is fair. I'll bet his mom's hair was jet black. Not that I'm anyone not that I'm anyone to talk. I look nothing like either of my parents. My dad insists that they found me on eBay. He's joking, obviously. He calls me terrific, and I call him Steve. I think it would be more appropriate for my 12-year-old daughter to address me as Daddy, tells me. Sure, Steve, I'll get right on that. He isn't mad. I'm the princess of his heart. Maybe I'm a little old to be called that, but as long as Malik doesn't find out, I figure there's no harm. Mom and Steve met in the bleachers at a water polo match at the University of Alabama. It was love at first sight. They moved to Serenity because they never wanted to be apart, and the Plastic Works had jobs for both of them. That was important because they both had student loans to pay back. I always ask them to tell me the story again because it's so romantic. I like to picture them walking hand in hand through the entrance to the plant on their first day of work. Not just husband and wife, but co-workers too. This takes some imagination since the factory grounds are off limits to non-employees. Best decision we ever made, Dad says, because it brought you into our lives. You would have had me no matter where you guys lived, I always point out. He shakes his head. Wouldn't have been the same. There's something special about this place. You wouldn't have been terrific self anywhere else. Steve and I don't see eye to eye on everything. It's my dream to travel to places like New York and even Europe to visit the amazing art museums there. He thinks it's just as good at looking at paintings and sculptures on the internet. It's so obviously not the same. Come on, Iwedo, let's take a trip. When's the last time you and Mom went on vacation? I've never been outside Serenity. We have everything we need right here. If I'm going to be an artist, I persist, I have to learn from the great masters. You can't do that squinting at a screen. I have to walk on the same cobblestones as Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci. The next time I open up the computer, I find a virtual tour of the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, Italy. Steve, I'm exasperated, but I'm laughing too. His stubbornness is part of what makes him my dad. It's annoying, but deep down I realize I'm pretty lucky with the life I've got. I won't be 12 forever, I tell him with a mischievous grin. I'm going to Europe. If you and mom won't take me, then I'll go when I'm in college. You guys can't control what I do forever. That makes him look really uncomfortable. I guess it's hard for any father to deal with the fact that his little girl is growing up. Later that night, I noticed Eli outside my window on Harmony Street. This isn't a huge coincidence. In Serenity, you always see someone you know because you know everybody, except the purple people eaters, obviously. Anyway, there's Eli walking up and down, looking kind of unsure of himself. I realize that the house he's staring at is Randy's, at least where Randy used to live before he got sent to live to his grandparents. What a crummy piece of luck that was. Everybody feels bad about it. But that obviously goes double for Eli. I abandon my mural and run down to join him on the darkened street. He looks a little embarrassed when I get there, like he's been caught doing something he shouldn't. Have you heard anything from Randy? I ask, because it's obvious that something's bugging him. He shakes his head. It's been 2 weeks. It's like he's dropped off the face of the earth. I frown. What do the Hardaways say? Just that he's really busy and I'll hear from him one of these days. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, I muse. How long does it take to shoot an email? Arrived in Colorado. Everything good? He told me he'd write. It was the last thing he said before the car drove away. He was probably really stressed that day, I reason. Yeah, but he said it twice. He made a really big deal out of it. He looks determined. So I keep asking myself, why would my best friend promise to write, to put such a fine point on it, and then not do it? I wish I could help him somehow, or at least wrap my arms around him and tell him everything is going to be okay. Ha! Can you imagine if Malik found out about that? But all I can manage is a shrug. Eli answers his own question. I think he did write. I think he wrote before he even left. There's a message for me here somewhere. There are about a million things wrong with that logic. For example, if Randy already knew what he wanted to say before he left, why didn't he just say it? What could be so secrets? We don't keep secrets here. But I just say, a message? Where? He doesn't answer, but he's looking past the house into the Hardaway's backyard. I don't know, he finally says, but it must be someplace he thinks I'll find it. I follow his gaze directly to the treehouse. No problem then, I say. I'm sure Mr. and Mrs. Hardaway won't mind if you look around. I think the Hardaways are mad at me. It's really weird. They don't talk to me anymore. It's like they talk through me. And when I come around, they make excuses that they have to leave. He sizes me up, as if wondering whether or not he can trust me. Besides, if Randy left me a hidden message, it was so his parents wouldn't see it. Now I'm uncomfortable. So you're gonna check the treehouse, he smiles sheepishly. At least I'm trying to work up the guts to. I'll go with you, I blurt, surprising even myself. Maybe it's wrong, but there's something intriguing, even irresistible, in the idea of a message from Randy to Eli, if it exists. What could be this special forbidden information possibly be? I can't imagine keeping a secret from anyone, much less Amber, my best friend. It's almost as if I'm seeing an open hidden door I never knew existed. Randy kept an old coffee can in his treehouse. Eli confides in me. When we were little kids, it was kind of our treasure box. He had a rodent skull and this rock he was convinced was a rare fossil. There was a shark's tooth, but I'm pretty sure that was plastic. We haven't looked at it lately, but I know the can is still there. And that's where the message is? I asked dubiously. I don't know, probably not. Maybe there is no message. I have to try, though, but I don't want Randy's parents to see me. I understand his problem right away. The houses in Serenity have big windows and open rooms. We've got nothing to hide. At least I thought we didn't. Even from here, we can see the flickering of the Hardaway's widescreen TV. For us to enter the backyard, we'd be parading ourselves right by Mr. and Mrs. Hardaway. And then it comes to me. I can picture the layout of things from all perspectives. Obviously, it's connected to being an artist, but it's more than that. I understand how things work. Like, I can envision how the finished puzzle, I can envision the finished puzzle before anybody puts the pieces together. It's not anything I do, I just know. So I place myself on the couch with the Hardaways and design a route that will take us to the treehouse without being noticed. We creep along the outside of the fence and then climb over into the Hardaways' yard once we're under the cover of the pool heater. From there, we're up the ladder and in the treehouse in short order. Eli's brought a small flashlight. He finds the coffee can right away. It's nestled in a hole in the tree trunk. With trembling hands, he lifts the lid and dumps the contents of the can out on the wooden floor. There they are, the rodent skull, the plastic shark's tooth, and a few other random items that someone a lot younger than us might have considered a treasure. There's a stack of 3x5 index cards held together with a rubber band. I look at the one at the top and frown in confusion. There's somebody photographed on the top and scribbled notes underneath. The face in the picture seems kind of familiar. Is that? Eli snatches the pack away. You're not supposed to see these. But I've already identified the photograph. That's a purple people eater. Even in the gloom of the treehouse, I can see his face as red as a tomato. They're purple people eater cards, he confesses in a low voice, so it's hoping that I won't hear it. I made them, kind of like baseball cards, only with... I get it, I assure him, holding out my hand. Reluctantly, he gives me the deck. I rifle through it. There must be 24 cards, each with the photo of a surety agent. Candid, obviously, purples never pose. These must have been taken on a cell phone from behind the hedges or around the corners. The facts below are very much like what you find on sports cards, with the difference that they're all made up, including names like Rump L. Stiltskin, Mike Arachnophobia Jones, Alexander the Grape, Screaming Mimi, Secret Agent Man, and even a couple of military titles, Major Nosehair and General Confusion. The information looks like the real statistics, but it's all crazy stuff like winning pancake eating contest and being 12th in line to the Sultanate of Olistan. Baron Vladimir von Horsteeth, born 300ths of a second after the Big Bang. Hobbies: tearing heads off of live chickens, flatulence, and knitting. Goal: to win the Kentucky Derby. Major accomplishment: flossing. Favorite foods: hay, carrots, sugar cubes. Favorite color: Thursday. I'm sort of shocked at first. At home and at school, we're taught to practically worship the surety for the job that they do protecting our town. But after a few seconds, I feel the corner of my mouth curling upward. The cards are just funny. And they fit some of the subjects so well, like Bigfoot, who must wear a size 18 shoes, or Mr. Universe, whose muscles bulge clear through the fabric of his purple tunic, or Sunshine, whose sour pickle face is the exact opposite of his name. I must have passed Baron Vladimir von Horsteeth dozens of times and noticed those choppers the size of piano keys. These are amazing, I tell him. Who gave you the idea to make the cards? It was all Randy. We passed one of them and Randy blurted out a nickname for the guy. We were laughing so hard that we kept going, dreaming up these details. Then we decided to do the cards. So we ran around taking their pictures and brainstorming goofy stuff about them. He trails off, probably thinking of the great times he and Randy used to have. I flip another card. Brian. Hobbies: marrying Mrs. Delaney. Favorite quote: Hey, Mrs. Delaney, will you marry me? We never came up with much for Brian, he says apologetically. Once they're real people, they're not funny anymore. I wonder which one is Hammerstrom. Hammerstrom? Another one of the purples he supplies. Those are the only two names they have: Brian Delaney and somebody Hammerstrom. I replace the rubber band on the card pack. The other kids have to see these, Eli. They're too good to keep hidden. He'd probably say no, but he's distracted by the search for his phantom message from Randy. I stick the pack in my pocket as he continues to rifle through the contents of the can again and again. There's no note. His disappointment is so clear that it almost has heat signature. It's like losing his best friend all over again. I'm disappointed too, but I'm also relieved. Although we're not technically breaking any rules, sneaking around doesn't feel very honest. People promise to write all the time, I offer. They get busy and they forget. It's nothing personal. You're talking about a guy who spends hours making purple people eater cars while he's flunking math. Sure, he sits back on the wall of the treehouse, utterly defeated. Poor Eli, he takes everything so seriously. It's one of the things I like about him, but he can be very hard on himself sometimes. I shift my weight, and suddenly I'm sitting on a sharp edged object that makes me jump. I pull it out from under me. It's a wooden boomerang of all things. Eli laughs. Remember Randy's challenges? Well, the latest one, he frowns at look at discovery come over his face. Think of our newest challenge. Huh? He's out of the treehouse and starting down the ladder before I can ask where he's going. I follow. I follow, whispering, Careful! I can see where he can't. That he's back in view of the Hardaway's couch. At least he's got the brains to keep low. I duck behind the deck chair, and as he leans over the edge of the pool and reaches into the filter, he digs for a few seconds, his arm in the opening up to his shoulder. I catch a glimpse of a prize in the moonlight, a white envelope inside 3 layers of Ziploc bags. It's dripping on the outside, but it looks like the letter is dry. Eli moves to open the Ziplocs and I stop him. Not here, I hiss. We retrace our steps to the fence and retreat the way we came in, huddled together so close we can feel each other's pounding heartbeats. We peel away the layers of the plastic bags and examine the envelope. Eli is written on it. Randy's handwriting, he says breathlessly. He tears it open and we begin to read. Eli, I'm not going to live with my grandparents. I'm being sent away to boarding school at McNally Academy in Pueblo, Colorado. I think it's because of what happened when we went out on the bikes that day. I can't explain how, but I get a feeling that some of the kids in Serenity, including you, are special, and I'm not. Nobody will say why, but somehow that bike trip was okay for me, but not for you. I'm positive the answer lies in why you got sick and I didn't. Maybe the special people can figure it out. I sure can't. Since you're reading this, you're smart enough to follow the clues. Thanks for that. I'm not allowed to contact you, so I guess this is the only goodbye we're ever going to have. Protect yourself, Eli. There's something screwy going on in that town. Randy. I stare at the tri-folded paper. This is nuts. Eli's white-faced. There's nothing special about me? Wait a minute. You're taking this seriously? He's floundering. Randy thinks that there's a connection between being special and getting sick. Randy's not thinking, I explode. He's reacting. He's angry because he had to move away from his family and leave the best place in the world to live on some farm with grandparents he barely knows. You'd be angry too. But he didn't go to the farm, Eli protests. He's at a boarding school. His parents sent him away on purpose. That's why they won't talk to me. I take a deep breath. Listen, I know Randy's your friend, but I also know Randy, who spent more time in trouble than any other kid we grew up with, including Malik, who mouthed off to adults, even your dad, who spent half the time in school sleeping and passing gas, who threw football at the Serenity Cup. I put the card pack out of my pocket. Who made these? I did, he says harshly. If Randy's so terrible, then so am I. 90% of what he did, I was right there with him. I relent. I didn't mean it that way. Randy's not terrible, but you've got to admit he wasn't the ideal Serenity kid. This is different. Don't you see, I persist? If this letter's truth, it doesn't just mean the Hardaways lied. At some point, every adult in town talked to us about Randy. Mrs. Laska, your dad, Mrs. Delaney, my parents, everybody's parents. Did they all lie too? That would be crazy. So who's lying? Is it the people who make it possible of us to live a great life? Or is it Randy because he's sore about being sent away? Eli's stubborn. Maybe that's what he means when he says that there's something screwy going on. Be real, Eli. Of all the things you could say about Serenity, it's a little bit small, it's a little bit conservative, it's a little bit dull. Screwy is the last thing you'd call it. I think there's something screwy going on with Randy Hardaway. It doesn't make him a bad person, but if he dreamed up a whole deck of cards just to make fun of the purples, is it so hard to accept that he'd write one of those letters to mess with you? Maybe. I think I'm finally getting through to him, but he folds up Randy's note like something precious and squirrels it away in his pocket. I'd better keep an eye on Eli. I don't like the look on his face. And that, folks, was the end of chapter 6. Whew, I don't know about you, but this is getting to be really good. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. So, this is Mrs. Wilkenbush signing out from chapter 6 from Masterminds. I'll see you next time.